Johnny Talk Sports with my Week 8 NFL predictions. Last week I went 11-3, which is awesome. Some negatives to it. I picked the Lions and the Bears to win last week. They both got blown out. But some positives. I correctly predicted the Ravens to upset the Seahawks on the road, so that's a plus. Hopefully Week 8 is better than last week. It's going to be a little bit tough to follow up because the NFL is quite tough to predict because any given Sunday. So let's get to the Week 8 NFL picks. As always, I begin with the Thursday Night Football game. This week, Thursday Night Football features the Redskins and the Vikings, and I feel like there's really no question on who I'm picking here. I've said throughout the last 4 weeks that the Vikings, they are night and day. But the Vikings, they have a winning streak going on. And I think this Vikings offense starting to click on all cylinders. And I'm going to pick the Vikings to win on Thursday Night Football because there's really nothing that looks promising about the Redskins at this point. So I'm going to take Minnesota. Next, Seattle and Atlanta, the Seahawks versus the Falcons. Now this is a very easy one. The Falcons, they do tend to beat Seattle. At least they've had, these two teams, they have been very competitive against each other in recent memory. But this is going to be a blowout. Seattle's going to win. It's not even going to be even close. Russell Wilson's going to look like a Hall of Famer against this Falcons defense because the Falcons, they are last in the National Football League in passing defense. And it's just a long season ahead for Atlanta. The season can't get over fast enough. The Falcons have already traded Mohamed Sanu to New England to get a second-round pick in exchange. Like that second-round pick's even going to do anything for the Falcons. I'm going to take Seattle. Huge. Seattle by at least 24 points. Next, the Eagles and the Bills. Now, the Bills are flying under the radar this season. However, they did get tested by the Dolphins. And the Eagles, they're on a losing streak right now. And the Eagles, they need to make a move. They need to trade for a corner at this trade deadline. They've already passed up on opportunities to try to get Marcus Peters and Jalen Ramsey. But I think the Eagles, they pull off an upset on the road here. I know this doesn't, maybe it may not count as an upset at this point, but the Bills, they have a better record at this point. But the Eagles, I could imagine them being favored in this matchup. So I'm going to take Philadelphia to get back on the winning track here. Next, the Chargers and the Bears. A battle of two anemic offenses, two struggling offenses, two basic offenses. The Chargers, they had the potential of winning last week, but it was just one of those endings where you just can't really control over the ref's decisions. And booth reviews, always important in the league. And the Chargers, they almost won, but they gave it up right at the end. And the Bears, they looked terrible last week against the Saints. I think that this is the last straw that the Bears are going to have with Trubisky. Although when you draft someone at number 2 overall, you're expected to have them as the starting quarterback at minimum 4-5 seasons. So the Bears, it's starting to look like a foolish decision to draft Mitch Trubisky and pass on Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. But I think the Bears win this week. I just think this is a game where I just had to pick somebody to win. And the Bears and Chargers, both struggling offenses at this point. But I'm just going to pick Chicago just because. This is probably going to be like a low confidence pick for me. Probably like the least confident. So I'm taking the Bears. Giants and the Lions. The Lions, they hung in there with the Vikings pretty well, but then they let the game get away from the very end. And the Giants, well, they're still the Giants. So I'm going to pick Detroit, although it wouldn't surprise me if the Giants managed to pull off this upset. Because the Giants, they lost the Cardinals last week right at the end of the game. So I'm going to take Detroit because I think they could be I still think that Detroit could still make the playoffs at this point, but they're just going to have to win games at this point, so I'll take Detroit. Next, we have the Buccaneers and the Titans. Now, this is a matchup I also felt like I only picked just because I had to pick someone. So do I pick Tampa Bay, who has beaten the Rams, put up 50 on the Rams, that has Jameis Winston at quarterback, that turns the ball over constantly, or I go with the Titans, a team that historically, in recent memory, tends to lose when they're favored. And right now the Titans are favored. And this is going to be a pick that I probably regret at the end of after this weekend is all said and done. But I'm going to pick the Titans. I don't know why, but this is another pick where I just felt like I had to pick someone. Next, the Broncos and the Colts. I'm going to pick the Colts. Although I do think this is going to be a game this week that can go either way. I just think Denver's struggling so much last week on the offensive line's part of the offense. I think the Colts are going to be able to feast on that. So I'm going to take Indy. They had a confidence win over a divisional rival in the Texans last week, and I like the Colts to continue that momentum. Next, the Bengals and the Rams. The Bengals, they are one of two teams that could still get the first overall pick in the draft. Maybe there's 3 or 4 of them, but I just can't see the Bengals winning games anytime soon. I'm going to take the Rams because that Rams performance against the Falcons, that was a performance that a team like the Rams needed. A team that is struggling to get back to their original ways after a loss in the Super Bowl, and a performance against a Falcons team like that. That's the momentum that they need. I think they go 2 in a row against Cincinnati. I'm taking the Rams. Next, we have the Cardinals and the Saints. The Cardinals are on a 3-game winning streak right now, but the Saints, they're undefeated with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. And I'm going to pick the Saints. 1, because Teddy Bridgewater has them firing on all cylinders. They're getting the job done with Teddy Bridgewater. 2, this could be the game where Drew Brees returns. Not quite sure on it yet. But either way, Drew Brees is going to come back within the next couple of weeks. Most likely after their bye week. And 3, it's in New Orleans. New Orleans is one of the toughest places to play in the National Football League. And I think the Saints are going to win at home. It's just simple as that. Although, would it surprise me if the Cardinals actually pull off an upset? No, not really. But I just can't see it. I feel like the Cardinals, they're still about 3 or 4 more seasons away from being a playoff contender. Maybe even 2 to 3, possibly. But either way, Saints win this week. Next, the Jets and Jaguars. Jaguars had a confidence builder against Cincinnati last week, while the Jets, they were shut out in Monday Night Football last week. So, where do I go here? I'm obviously picking the Jaguars. Would it surprise me if the Jets won? Yeah, but they could, because the Patriots defense, it's a buzzsaw. And it's going to be interesting to see how this Jets team responds after being embarrassed and humiliated the way that they were on national TV in prime time last Monday night. So it's going to be something to watch for, how this Jets team responds. Will they respond with heart, or will it just get into their heads? But I'm going to pick Jacksonville. Next, we have the Panthers and 49ers. The Panthers are coming off a bye week. Christian McCaffrey is in the hunt for league MVP. The 49ers are 6-0 this season. However, I'm going with the upset. I'm going to pick Carolina to win this matchup. I do think the 49ers, they are a good team this season. However, they've only played really one good team, and I think the team they beat that is legitimate, the Rams, I think they're getting back to some momentum. I think the Rams, they had about their 3 weeks of struggle, and now I think they're starting to get back to the proper confidence. In fact, the Rams' 3-game losing streak was really nothing to disown them about, because one of the games they lost, Zerline just missed a field goal, and attempt that he makes 9 times out of 10. It just happened to be that one time that he missed it is when the game was on the line. So the 49ers, they are a legitimate team. They've played one strong team this season, but this is going to be the second strongest team they play this season. And I mean strong, I mean second strongest as in the amount, not as quality. But I'm picking the Panthers to pull off the upset against the 49ers, giving them their first loss of the season. Next, we have the only other undefeated team left in the National Football League, the Browns and the undefeated Patriots. In preseason, this matchup looked like it had some hype. The young Baker Mayfield versus the veteran in Tom Brady, arguably the GOAT. But I'm going to pick New England because the Browns, well, they are still the Browns, and there was just so much hype to them coming in this season. I just think the hype's getting to their heads. I'm going to take New England. Next, we have the Raiders and the Texans. And I'm going to take the Texans. This is one of those games I think this week that goes either way. But I think the Texans will make the plays in the fourth quarter. The Texans probably should have beaten the Colts this past week if maybe one or two things went different in that game. But I think the Texans, they get back on the right track. I'm taking Houston. And on Sunday Night Football, we have in the preseason, it seems like a lot of these matchups that we examined in the preseason, there was such hype to them. And now they just seem to look disappointing. It is still a good matchup. It's still a primetime matchup, but it's without the reason why that we want to watch this game. And that's the Packers and the Chiefs. Aaron Rodgers has the Packers off to a hot start this season. Their only loss was on Thursday night to the Eagles in a game where they probably should have won, but it was just a matter of bad play calling, having the ball inside the 3-yard line twice, and not coming up with any touchdowns or any points. And on Kansas City's side, you had the league MVP, Pat Mahomes, possibly missing these next 3 games. So the biggest reason why that this matchup had all the hype to it is now gone in Rodgers versus Mahomes. That's now eliminated. But I think the Packers do win. I think the Chiefs not having Pat Mahomes at the quarterback position is going to do damage to this Chiefs team. While I'm not going to doubt Matt Moore, I still think Travis Kelce is going to get involved in this passing game in Mahomes' absence. But I'm worried about, can he fit the ball? Can he get the ball to Tyreek Hill? Or can he get it to Mecole Hardman? Can he get it to the other receivers? But I'm going to take Green Bay in this matchup. And Monday Night Football, to wrap it up, with the Dolphins and the Steelers. Nothing to talk about. Steelers will win. Although, once upon a time, these two teams played on a Monday night, and the Steelers literally won by a score of 3-0. In probably the most boring game of Monday Night Football ever. Could we see another boring game of Monday Night Football on our hands? Well, if you like defense, maybe this game is going to be for you. But I'm going to take the Steelers to win on Monday Night Football over the tanking Dolphins. So those are my picks for the week. To recap, I have the Vikings, Seahawks, Eagles, Bears, Lions, Titans, Colts, Rams, Saints, Jaguars, Panthers, Patriots, Texans, Packers, and Steelers all winning this week. I'm a little bit worried about my picks this week because I picked a lot of home teams to win this week, but road teams have done so well this season. That's the big reason why I'm concerned. I do think these home teams, I think they're going to be able to claim their home turf advantage. But the road teams have done very well this season, so I'm a little bit concerned. It wouldn't surprise me if I had a below 500 week this week. So comment your picks down below, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.